Welcome to Music Ed Tech Talk, a podcast exploring music, education, technology, and the intersections between them, with a special focus on the productive and creative process. I'm your host, Robby Burns. With me today is Dr. David MacDonald. How's it going?
I am doing fantastic. This semester is going great. I had my first performance since the pandemic just about a week ago, and I'm very happy about it. It was great to be back in making music in front of live audiences again. It's great. How's your semester going, Robby?
It's going well. It's been very full. I'm staying barely afloat. Things are not all happening maybe that should be happening, but the things that matter are happening. And that's what matters, I guess.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Here's an example. Like, I was supposed to set up a meeting with my administrator to talk about my student learning objective for the year, and I put it in my task app as sign up by October 31st, but it turns out what the email actually said was meet by October 31st.
Oh.
So I go to sign up on Halloween and then realize that all of the options have passed. But I emailed him, we're meeting tomorrow. So it's all good. That's the kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Instruction is good. Kids are good. Music making is good. All of those things that matter are good.
Lots of little
happy
things, though.
To be playing in person. All the little ball. If there is a tiny, minuscule shaped ball to be dropped, I have probably dropped it this year.
And not in like the good New Year's Eve kind of way.
No, they're not coming from a net.
More like
like
a juggler kind of.
Yeah, like a juggler who you would not hire for your kid's birthday party.
Reasonable. Well, I'm glad you're getting the important things done.
Yeah, the important things are getting done. It's good. Making music is great. I think kids are happy to be back in person. It's interesting. Things that are, you can maintain individual instrument skill when you're isolated and alone. But there's a lot of interesting things that now that we're a quarter in, I'm starting to make the connections. Like what is it that we really did lose last year? And, obviously ensemble skills like tuning and balancing and listening are just being reformed for the first time.
I think there's going to be some really interesting like state MEA and like Midwest conference presentations in the next couple of years about what people lost with their especially the youngest band and orchestra and choir students that they're trying to have to find new ways to kind of make up for whatever that year was where they may have been doing some things, but it wasn't sitting in a room and playing together.
Yeah, totally. You actually you reminded me now of we've been talking since even before I said the show's introduction. You've reminded me now of like 3 different things that are in the follow-up that I might as well just do the follow-up. Yeah. Okay. And I'll connect each thing back to you. Okay. So, but first, something that's just simply related to 2 episodes ago. I did an episode with Paul Shimmons, and he and I talked about like all the new features we're excited about using in iOS 15 and in macOS Monterey. And I thought that I should publicly say to people who are listening, just to be careful out there. Just to be careful.
Check with your software vendors for sure. I am not on the Monterey side of the divide. I know you are.
I have been testing it on a secondary computer since July, and I've had like almost no issues with it.
Really?
So I went for it. Yeah, I have a Mac Mini. Yeah, I mean, what have I been testing on the Mac Mini? Ableton Live had some issues at first, but again, I don't depend on that machine for that kind of work, so that was fine. Dorico worked well for me. The Adobe stuff worked well. Nearly every independent productivity app I've ever bought on the Mac App Store worked fine. So it was okay. The most buggy part of the experience was the Messages and FaceTime app, and then the Shortcuts app, which is itself a new feature and was partly, actually most of the reason that I upgraded my MacBook last week.
Are you getting a lot out of the Shortcuts for Mac?
I'm definitely getting something out of it. I mean, it's things that I would always think to do when I'm in front of my Mac, but would need to take an iPad out of my bag to do. Like you just want to eliminate that kind of stuff. Yeah. The Mac should be the most powerful one. Mm-hmm. So the fact that there's all this great, easy to string together automation stuff on iOS, it's great to have that there. One thing I've been doing now is, so in the episode with Paul, I mentioned an automation where by putting my device, any one of my devices into rehearsal focus mode, it triggers a shortcut on every device that opens the apps I need for rehearsal. So my drummer track GarageBand project and my tonal energy tuning app open on my phone my iPad opens a seating chart on one half of the screen, Fourscore on the other half of the screen, and then a little craft agenda for the day in split view. And now the Mac can finally play with this. And I'm having some fun experimenting over the past few days because I've already been using Keyboard Maestro a bunch on the Mac to automate apps opening and closing in certain contexts. And now I'm beginning the process of figuring out, okay, can I have my Mac shortcut, which automatically triggers in Rehearsal Focus, do some shortcut stuff, but also trigger a Keyboard Maestro macro to happen every time I go into that particular focus. Because you can do it from the phone. I can trigger the phone into Rehearsal Focus, and then all the devices just start lighting up and doing all my app dance.
I heard you say that on this episode with Paul, and that's the first time that I got really excited about having shortcuts on the Mac. Super, and I guess that's more about having focus modes on the Mac. But really, the main thing that I'm excited for is universal control, which does not exist yet in any of the current versions of Monterey. Even the current betas of Monterey don't have universal control yet. So I'm going to hold off at least until that. And hopefully by the time that rolls around, most of the audio software that I would want to use will be fully supported. And that's the thing. Most of it seems like is okay. Like I haven't seen anybody saying, oh my gosh, whatever this app is going to crash and burn in Monterey. But I've seen all of the publishers saying that they haven't finally supported, certified, whatever. So I'm comfortable waiting.
Yeah, and I'll link in the notes to this episode. Scoring Notes has a good post that keeps up to date with all the scoring software.
Yeah.
Is there a site that does that for digital audio workstations that you know
Not
of?
that I know of, and I would be interested in finding one if there is. I just know the things that I need to follow. And I feel like if I usually just index to the slowest one, which is almost always Native Instruments. So if I know that the Native Instruments software is good to go, then probably everything else is good to go.
Isotope for me is usually the last one.
I need to upgrade my Isotope anyway. I'm on Isotope RX7, and it's time. RX9 just came out, and so anyway.
I'm on 7 as well. Well, that Scoring Notes and shortcuts talk brings me to my next piece of follow-up. So I have been a little quiet the past week or two on the blog besides posting podcasts because I'm working on a couple of collaborative blog posts, and I thought I should tell people to check them out. 2 of them will be out by the time that this episode is published. One of them is actually for Scoring Notes, and it is about using the Shortcuts app on Mac to create score templates. And I don't have any other outlet to talk about it other than that post, so I'm just going to tell you that it's fun. It's a fun use of shortcuts. You know, all of the automator actions from the Mac's automator app came to shortcuts, and some of those deal with file management. So even though a lot of professional creative software like Photoshop, Dorico, Pro Tools, a lot of this stuff does not provide shortcuts actions, but you can, by nature of files being a big part of your workflow in a creative app, you can do stuff with files. So Dorico, for example, does not allow me to create a template that's specifically one of each of the band instruments that I teach in the key of concert B flat major, which is a really common scenario I'm using for worksheets or for practice resources. And I can create a template and put it in a folder and then create a shortcut that basically says step 1, look at that file, step 2, duplicate it and save it to the desktop, step 3, open it in Dorico. Mm-hmm. And because Shortcuts is now cross-platform, that one shortcut works on the iPad and on the Mac.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I am not. So the more I hear you talk about it, the more excited I am to have Shortcuts on the desktop. But it's not excited enough for me to want to fight whatever I have to fight to upgrade early. If I upgraded now, it would be the earliest I've upgraded in a long, long time. Having said that, for Mac users who have dealt with some kind of painful updates the last couple of years, this is not going to be like that. This is not like, Catalina that got rid of all of your 32-bit apps, or Big Sur that had a bunch of underlying audio system changes to the audio drivers that messed up all of your audio software. This seems like pretty smooth sailing, at least from Big Sur. If you're coming from something before Catalina, then you'll have to deal with all of the pain that the Catalina and Big Sur upgrades included as well. But this one seems like it should be pretty smooth.
Yeah, so far so good. All right, I got another article that you made me think of when you said you wanted to talk about composition assignments. I've got a blog post for the Noteflight blog coming out. It'll probably be out by the time this drops as well. And that is about a recent assignment I did with my 8th grade general music class. We call that General Music 2 at my school. And I'm just trying to, like we've talked about, I think the last time you were on, which was maybe like episode 30 or something, I'll link it. But we were talking about kind of connecting these broader compositional ideas in this new computer software that we got last school year with the strands of musical performance that have existed in the curriculum since, before I was even a teacher where I teach. And so an attempt to kind of like introduce my students to, here's ukulele performance, here's some basic understanding of chords and melody. This most recent time I had them write an 8-measure melody, I also had them write a chord progression in Noteflight using the chord feature, which was new to them. And then I had them actually import that into a Soundtrap project where they could the melody came in as a MIDI track. Then they could change the instrument. And then they could actually record in an audio track themselves strumming their ukulele chord progression underneath of their melody and then add a drum loop. So it turned out to be sort of a variation of the write an 8-measure melody in C major, but also a variation of the drag 3 loops into a DAW and make it sound good. But it involves them performing to a click track also and using an audio track, using a MIDI track. I don't know. It's kind of like a nice little summary of everything we've done so far with the instruments and the technology this year. And I'll link to that blog post as well.
That sounds amazing. I would love to read about that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I, as a non-string player, non-guitarist, non-anything related to those things, how badly do I need a ukulele in my life?
It wins you over. It wears on you. I always like listening to people play it more than I like playing it.
Okay.
But that's because I don't know nearly as many chords on it as I do guitar. I don't know. It's fun. I mean, so one of the things is, and I'll again refer people to the ukulele episode a couple episodes back with Chris Russell. He gave me some sites that allow me to, like, when I want to teach, like if I know that for the next couple of classes I'm going to be really drilling the same 4 or 5 chords. This website, it's called Ukulele. I'll link it. And you type in the chords, you don't type them in actually. There's like you click on all the chord symbols that and then it just basically is it's like a database of all of the educational play-along videos on YouTube that there are that use those chords.
Wow.
And so Chris's thing, when he was on, he was like, I never played the same song twice. And I remember growing up and like always playing the same like 3 songs for weeks and weeks and weeks. And like, I don't know, we probably played like maybe like 40 or 50 songs so far this year.
Wow.
And I think that makes it more fun.
That's great. That's way fun.
I don't know how to, I don't have like the correct strumming technique. I just sort of do it like I do a guitar, which is, I mean, that's sort of like the ukulele is like from a curricular standpoint is also like the sort of come as you are instrument. Like you don't like really need to like develop weeks and weeks and weeks of strength in your fingers and calluses in order to feel like you can play along.
Yeah. Well, then maybe I need one.
Which is not to say... Yeah, it's fun. And you know what? You can get, like the ones that we have at our school, I don't know exactly how much they cost. They can't be more than $30 a piece.
They come up every once in a while.
Cheap.
I don't know if you subscribe to the Musician's Friend Stupid Deal of the Day, but every once in a while, the Stupid Deal of the Day will be for a ukulele, and that's when I almost buy one.
I mean, I think ours was about $110, and that was a deal from my cousin who owns a guitar shop in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, this probably won't be that good of a deal. But
it's a decent instrument, you know what I mean? Like it's just a little nicer than what I think, because I don't know what most people's budget is for ukulele. I assume most people want to spend under $100 on one.
Well, I certainly don't want to spend even that much on one because I don't know what I'm doing, and there's a very high likelihood that I'll use it twice and then never again. But maybe that'd be a good holiday gift.
Ooh, holiday gift? Are you?
See what I did there? This is the gift that I give. This is my holiday gift to you, Robby Burns.
All right. let's get on to the episode. We're talking today is the holiday gift guide, and I've wanted to do this.
I'm so surprised. I had no idea.
I don't know. I wanted to do this. I don't know, like a year. I don't know. It was like something that I thought of maybe over a year ago, and it was too late.
Gift guides are fun because it's like you get to spend other people's money to buy nice things.
Exactly right. Yes. And I feel like it writes itself because, like, what am I going to recommend? Things I don't own? No, I'm just going to think of all the cool things I own and tell people why I like them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought we would split it up into some categories. I've got a category for books, hardware. Things get a little nebulous when we want to talk about software services and entertainment because there's a little bit of, what things kind of fall into more than one category. But, I think we've got a pretty good list of picks here, and we might as well just go at this.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I guess I'll start by saying that, everything we're going to talk about, aside from like sort of a grab bag of entertainment related items, is, generally geared towards a musician, a teacher, or someone who is a technology enthusiast in some sort of musical profession. We've got a lot of hardware that I would consider to be sort of in like the general computing category, but then we've got a lot of things that are specific to producing and recording music, things that will just assist you as a teacher, some software, some apps we're going to talk about. I guess, do we want to address software is kind of a nebulous thing, so I guess do we want to talk about gift cards now, or do you want to wait until we get to the software section?
I will save it for the software section.
We'll save it for the software section. All right, well, I like to learn new things always, and so why don't we start with the topic of books?
Okay. Hit me. What do you got? What kind of book should I be giving?
So I'm working with, for the first time ever, a music technology student. My private studio is about 17 percussionists. And I have a student who's been meeting with me virtually since the middle of last school year. And this is just a student who wanted some feedback on some recording projects he was working on, and who wanted a little bit of extra guidance and support in like kind of finding a career in music. He's interested in producing, but sort of, I remember being at that age. I remember being in my undergrad and still not knowing what I was doing with myself. So I figure, I want to always have my students, particularly my students who are juniors and seniors, who, maybe like when I was that age, I didn't have that much direction, but what can I do? What do I wish that I had the inspiration and the knowledge to do like 4 years later in my life? Like what would I have been able to do with that knowledge and inspiration as a late high school student? So anyway, I'm trying to that end, expose him to the lots of different kinds of music technology related jobs out there, and I am reading with him Beyond Sound by Scott Reeves, which is for anyone who teaches music or just like even makes music electronically, or has a student or a class of music technology students, or even just you have you teach like an orchestra, but you have like this one student who's maybe really interested in the soundboard in the back of the room at the concerts. This is a book that's worth reading, and even I would say giving to students to kind of help them get a survey of all the different kinds of directions you can go with music technology. It's a 10-year-old book now, so there's definitely some things in it that you will be obviously 10 years old, but I think it's a great way to get young people thinking about all the different options they have. And it's one of those books because it's just well put together. It covers it's just very thorough, so it's gonna like not miss stuff that you might otherwise miss. It's just going to give you a comprehensive background. It's even got an appendix of like different college music technology programs in the United States, organized by school and by like field. So it's very cool, worth checking out. I'm enjoying reading it with my student right now.
Cool. So are you with that student, what kinds of things are you dealing with? Are you dealing with like specific technology and software things, or are you just dealing with kind of broad generic things?
A little bit of both. So we're right now, we do a little bit of ear training in every lesson. So right now we're doing a lot of major and minor scale and interval and chord recognition. And he usually has some kind of listening assignment every week where he listens to some kind of music I've given him and like writes up a little something on every track on a particular album or recording. There's always some sort of project-based thing. So right now we're just working on like song form and like understanding like what are the typical components of a song, and even if you don't have lyrics or like anyone singing, what are the how would you structure a melody in the way that most.
Well, that's a really interesting field. I think it's a thing that people are just starting to develop new language to talk about song forms, because the way we've talked about song forms for a very long time really comes from like the verse chorus model from around the 1960s and 70s in the US, and we haven't had great language to talk about some of the more recent developments in popular music, especially the sorts of things that are driven by technological innovation. So that's great to be talking about those kinds of things. That's really fun.
Yeah, like some of his compositions are like doing this, like the lo-fi thing is just really big with kids right now, and they just want to make tracks that sort of like establish a groove and then like very, very like slowly iterate on that groove for like 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because that's definitely got a place in popular culture right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's very much not a song.
There's a great, if you're looking for kind of fundamentals of music technology stuff, which is not, I don't think, a great place to start if you just have somebody that wants to make beats at home. There's a great book by VJ Manzo called Foundations of Music Technology. And it has, what's cool about it is that it's not software specific. It's relatively software agnostic, but it kind of discusses the fundamental principles that underlie all digital audio software. And it comes with its own little, and you can actually download this for free online if you go to the website of the book, its own little software thing that demonstrates the specific things for each chapter as it goes through the book. So you're not like opening a super complicated like Logic or Pro Tools kind of application where there's thousands of bells and whistles. It's like a very focused set of things so that when you're talking about each of these topics, synthesizers or whatever, you just have the tools that the text is addressing and addresses them in the same ways as the text. And so it's a really cool book, and it has these things that, and because the software is free and works on Windows and Mac and probably Linux as well, it makes it a little easier to teach these concepts online as well. So like if you're used to, like, a lot of university professors had to deal with this during the pandemic of students normally having access to a computer lab with fancy software, and now they're working from home on whatever laptop they have. And so this was super useful to a lot of people who were teaching music technology courses over the last couple of years online. So anyway, I think it's totally worth checking out. It's VJ Manzo, Foundations of Music Technology.
VJ Manzo is awesome, and he co-authored a book with Will Kuhn called Interactive Composition, which is an Ableton Live curriculum. And that actually, I might as well I'll do my next one since you connected it there. So speaking of Will Kuhn, past guest on the show, he and Ethan Hein wrote a book called Electronic Music School that came out over the summer. And that, if you are someone who teaches a music technology course of any kind, or if you're like a band director and it's all of a sudden you just found yourself thrown into a music tech elective, or you just want to develop an electronic music program, this is the one for you. I can't recommend it enough. It's very, very, very recent. Both of them are pretty extremely into Ableton Live, but they have really like come at this from the perspective of not like where do you click in the software, but like how do you actually build a program around these kinds of ideas philosophically, culturally, musically. They just really are kind of coming at it from every possible angle that you would need to have as a teacher. So it's excellent.
That's great. So if we want to keep talking about music or books about music composition, there's a really good one that just came out this year by Jorge Variego. It is called Composing with Constraint, and it just is basically a bunch of prompts for compositions. It's mostly geared toward 5-line staff, like notation composition, but it has a huge variety of different ways of constraining the creative options that the composition can have. And it's a great way of getting students to think creatively about things without being overwhelmed. Like that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for students who are new to creativity and open-ended work to get started, because they see all of these options that are available before them and they don't know where to start. And so by really constraining the options, it makes it easier to get started. And also the students then can think more creatively about the remaining parameters that aren't restricted from these prompts. So it's a cool book. It's very short. I haven't gone through all 100 exercises that are in it, but I have a copy and I've gone through a couple of them, and I've talked about them with students and have used versions of them in my composition teaching. So they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty intrigued by that. Real quick, Scott Reeves is not the author of Beyond Sound.
Oop.
It's Scott Phillips, and I think I said Reeves earlier. So correction, Scott Phillips. It'll be linked in the notes. Okay.
Are we going to do all of these? I think this is
will...
going to take too long if we do all of these at this length.
No, I'll cut some. I thought I would just shout out a couple of recent guests on the show.
Sure.
Like if you've been listening recently, Dr. Peter Perry was on the last episode, and his book, Tech Tips for Ensemble Directors. I just feel like it's right in the wheelhouse of most people I know listen to this show who write to me. You know, a lot of people are finding themselves very, very interested in maximizing technology, but I still find, you know, there are definitely people who teach music technology who listen, but, you know, a handful also of people who are like teaching traditional ensembles, and this is the book for you. On our last episode, we talked a lot about technology we use like in the actual rehearsal, but this is a really comprehensive book with ideas for like how to actually teach a rehearsal like holistically. Like, what are you assessing in? What are the tools the students are using? How are you structuring assignments? It's a great book, and I certainly recommend it. I would it would be silly not to shout out my own book at this point, Digital Organization Tips for Music Teachers, which of course is about the productivity software I use to organize everything around the rehearsal and the pedagogy.
Which is important, right? Like the whole point of this thing is to get all that stuff out of the way so we can focus on the stuff that we really showed up to do today, right? You didn't show up to work today to answer emails.
Yeah, I'll throw in one more, since they're all in the Prestissimo series from Oxford University Press, Recording Tips for Music Educators by Ron Kearns. It's just a nice short little handbook.
That sounds fascinating. I might be interested in that.
Yeah, it's just like basics of like microphones with like diagrams and pictures of like some of this recommended gear and things, and like how to set it up in the back of a concert hall, like, you know, and it's really short. Like, it feels, when you hold the book in your hand, you're like, this is light, this is accessible, I can have this, I can do this. Well, that's the way I feel when I hold his book.
I am looking forward to checking that out in the show notes later, because that sounds exciting. So if I may add to this list of books geared toward teachers, there's a great book for people like me who teach music theory, and not just at the university level, at any level. Came out in 2020 and came in paperback recently. This is one of these like academic scholarship books that costs just a ridiculous, like laughable sum of money if you buy it when it first comes out. It's the Routledge Companion to Music Theory Pedagogy, edited by VanHandel. And basically, she put out a call for submissions from music theory teachers at all kinds of levels, saying, you know, think about what you teach and think about what the things are that you think are the most creative or that are the most impactful or that you are the most proud of, the lessons, the assignments, whatever it is, the things that you do that you think are the best things that you do, and submit them. And she compiled probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 of these things into a book. And it's a great book. It's really good stuff. There are a handful of books about music theory pedagogy. It's as weird as this sounds, topic in music theory scholarship. So there are actually a few recent volumes on music theory pedagogy, but this is one of the most recent. Just came out in paperback, so it is no longer like over $200 to get a copy of this book. It's now down to like, you know, $30 or $40 book if you get it on Kindle or paperback. And just, you know, for next year's holiday shopping, there is a related book, the Routledge Companion to Oral Skills Pedagogy. That one is still in hardcover and will cost you $250. So maybe wait until that comes out in paperback, but it's also very good. Anyway, that's the Routledge Companion to Music Theory Pedagogy. Good stuff.
Nice. It became apparent to me just now that I can do a whole episode or two on books.
Totally.
Yeah, maybe that's down the road. I'll add that to my little organizational space where I keep all my ideas. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, those are definitely some hot new books worth checking out. Oh, I was going to do one more. Theresa Hoover was, of course, also on recently, and her book Passing the Baton is like trending. Every time I go on JW Pepper, I see it's like, check out these books for the school year. Tons of project ideas in there. Again, like all the books I was mentioning earlier, pick it up, get an idea, implement it, put it down. Like just an easy way to, you know, you're not going to like revamp your teaching, but you might find an idea that once executed really makes you rethink the way you do things.
And if I may very quickly insert at least one non-direct music teaching kind of book in here, it would be this relatively new book by Sarah Urist Green. If you don't know Sarah Urist Green, she is an artist and art curator, and she has a YouTube channel sponsored by PBS called The Art Assignment, and talks about all kinds of things in art history and the creative process and artists and what artists do and how they work and what their work means to them and what it means to audiences. Very cool YouTube channel that you can check out called The Art Assignment. she has put together a book that is covering a lot of the kinds of things that she has covered on the YouTube channel. It's called You Are an Artist, Assignments to Spark Creation. And it goes through a bunch of examples of different kinds of artists, mostly from the last 100 years or so, including some that do some pretty weird kinds of art, and approaches them in a really compelling and kind of empathetic way. And I think it's a really great way to get into contemporary and modern art, and has some assignments that are kind of loosely using some of the work that she's talking about as models. So, for you to do some interesting and creative things that are maybe a little bit outside of the kinds of creative ways that we usually express ourselves as musicians, and at least for me, kind of makes me think about the music that I make and the music that I teach in a little bit different ways as well.
I'm excited to check that out. Make sure you definitely put a link.
It's super
in
cool.
The note for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I feel like this next category is what people came to the show for.
This is what you came to see, people.
It's what you came for. You want hardware. You want to know what microphones we like. You want to know computers we use. It's funny because I'm such a software nerd that, I don't think about the hardware, but I think it's easy to forget that my desk, I'm looking at it, it's just covered in stuff that at one point I researched, and now I'm just sort of sitting with it. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't excite me, but to someone else, they might get excited about upgrading their microphone. So let's do it. Why don't we start? Can we start with like consumer products that we use in our professional life? Sure.
What do you have in mind here?
Well, it's funny. I say that thinking like the umbrella of like Apple products that we have on this list, but the top of the list is the HomePod Mini, which is not really. They're certainly not something I use at my school job, but it's definitely something that is. I mean, I don't think there's a more holiday gift-friendly thing on the whole list we put together than this.
Right. It's $100, so it's not like super cheap, but it's also not a $6,000 Mac. So it's pretty approachable, and it's super easy to use. You don't need to do anything fancy to set it up. You just plug it in and connect it to your Wi-Fi, and it pretty much just goes. And it can do all kinds of useful things, some of which are super obvious, and it sounds pretty good for a $100 speaker. I have 3 of them in a small 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm very happy with them. And they came in new colors. We have lovely new colors now.
Yes, you can get them in colors. I think like just a few days ago now, you can get them in about 4 or 5 new colors. I've got a handful in my house, and they are just like what controls my house. I control the lights in my house with them, and I love them very much. Absolutely. You should definitely talk about this next one.
So the most recent largest purchase of mine from Apple is my iPad Mini. This is a tiny little kind of very hand-holdable iPad. My main kind of device that I teach from all day long is a 13-inch iPad Pro, and that is great, and I love it. It's my favorite computer I've ever owned. It's the 2018, and it's still rocking. The thing that I don't like about it is that it's not super comfortable to hold and read. And so I have been waiting for an update to the iPad Mini, and the current version kind of fulfilled all of my wildest dreams for what an iPad Mini might do. And it is a device that I expect to last for a very long time. It has it hasn't replaced my iPad Pro. I need that for the screen size. Like, the reason that I have it is not because it screams, and though it does. The reason I have it is because it's a large display, and so it can display scores and stuff. So I can use it to mark up homework assignments. I can use it to read in rehearsals and whatnot. But the iPad Mini has more or less replaced my Kindle for reading. So not only can it read Kindle books and Apple books, but it can also read PDFs that I download of journal articles from like JSTOR. It can read blog feeds like Robby's blog I read on my iPad Mini. So to me, it is just exactly what I wanted to have in an iPad. I don't know. How many have you purchased so far, Robby?
Do you mean things on the list total I've purchased, or how many iPad Minis have I purchased?
I was asking how many iPad Minis you've purchased, but it's only a matter of time.
I think you're right, because for me, I keep going back and forth between, do I want to just get a medium iPad next go around, or do I really need the large one? And I think as long as I do a seating chart on half the screen and a score on the other half, I probably need a large one. So, and my wife is all in on the idea of the mini. She's like, now she's even asking me every day, like, when are we getting an iPad mini? And we've come to this arrangement where as long as she can read our Kindle shared library on it, she doesn't care if my iCloud account is signed into it. I'm like, this is a pretty good deal. I think I'm going to crack soon.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It has served me well so far in the month or so that I've had it around, and I'm looking. It seems like the kind of thing that was like way over-spec'd for what I need it for, and for what I seem to think anybody would need it for. I'm assuming that this is a thing that I'm going to have around for 5+ years. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. And it charges with the same charging cable as my iPad Pro, so it uses USB-C instead of Lightning, and it uses the same Apple Pencil, which is super cool. So if you are an iPad user, or if you know an iPad user who's got an iPad, really any iPad from the last 3 years or so, it can probably work with an Apple Pencil. And the Apple Pencil is the thing that makes my iPad my professional work device. More so than a hardware keyboard, the Apple Pencil is the thing that allows me to use my iPad as a replacement for paper documents. And I'm just a huge fan of the Apple Pencil. I can't recommend it enough. If you know somebody that has an iPad, try to figure out which version of the Apple Pencil will work with theirs. They're not interchangeable. So if you have an iPad that can work with Apple Pencil, it will either work with the Apple Pencil 1 or the Apple Pencil 2. They change the way they connect. The technology is different, so it has to be one or the other. But they're both great and totally worth having.
Yeah. Reason, just moving on here, because I couldn't agree more about Apple Pencil. Reason 87 why I didn't also buy an iPad mini yet is because I bought the next thing on the list.
Uh-oh.
And that is, I bought a new MacBook Pro. It comes in December. I bought it for myself. Now, I don't know that some people do have people in their life. You know, maybe you have a kid and they're going to school. Maybe you have someone in your life where you're going to maybe buy them a computer.
There is nobody that is getting a $5,000 Christmas gift from me. I'm telling you that right now.
No, absolutely. There's no person in my life who will be getting anything like this. But it was time for me. My computer, you know, they tend to last 5 or 6 years. And I have actually, given this past COVID year and sort of some changes to the way I work, I've actually really returned to the Mac as my primary professional platform. And so I've gone all in. I got this new one with the M1 chip in it. I went for the Max chip, and it's going to have 4 terabytes of storage on it because I'm tired of iCloud sucking all my documents up to the cloud. And iCloud, there's no way to tell it to like keep certain files or folders local to the device. And so maybe Apple knew that I was going to spend an extra $1,000 on the computer to avoid that problem. But I'm going to just click on Photos, Music app, and Files app. I'm going to just say download everything to device. Everything lives locally. Done deal. I can't wait.
I'm very happy for you. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you.
Yeah, but this is definitely, I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, if you need a computer, one of these new M1 Macs, they're amazingly fast and battery efficient in a way where you just wouldn't expect it from a 40-year-old mature product like a desktop or a laptop computing device.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I have not purchased one yet, at least in part because I went for the iPad mini, among other things. I also bought a couple of other new gizmos, but I'm very jealous of your new MacBook Pro. Even though you don't have it yet, I am jealous of the idea of your new MacBook Pro.
I'm jealous of future me.
This next one is very, very giftable kind of piece of hardware, and that is AirPods. And I have AirPod Pros. I know there seems to be people who like AirPod Pros and people who like regular AirPods, and it's just a personal like ear preference, like what you like to put in your ear. The AirPod 3 is the newest of these devices, and it is more like the classic Apple EarPods that kind of just hangs in your ear, doesn't go into your ear. The AirPod Pro is more like an in-ear silicone tip, goes inside your ear canal headphone, and that's my preference for a headphone style, but I understand it's not for everyone. I love my AirPod Pros. I wear them pretty much all day long, and when I'm not standing in front of a classroom or talking to other humans, and I use use them to listen to music and they sound great. I use them to listen to podcasts and they sound great. I couldn't be happier with them. They are pricey and you do have to kind of pay attention to them because they're easy to lose because they're very tiny, but I like them a lot. Which AirPods are you rocking, Robby?
The Pros do not work for me at all. I just can't get them to stick in my ears. I've tried like 4 different aftermarket manufacturers of like ear tips and it just doesn't work. My favorite pair of AirPods is the 2s, which I don't have any of the battery issues some have spoken about. I wear them all the time. They're disgusting but amazing. They sound good enough for me, and I love them. If they were dying, I would definitely get a pair of AirPod 3s because they do definitely have that similar kind of style that just hangs in the ear. But now AirPod 2s now are still on the market. They're like only $120 now. That's a stocking stuffer right there for some, you know?
Totally.
Nice. The Stream Deck, I feel like, is definitely like it's got that kind of like fun gadget vibe to it that people like. You know, they like to make an impulse purchase, but I've really gotten a lot of utility out of it. I know you're an XL user. What are you doing with your Stream Deck these days?
All kinds of things. I used it to start this podcast. So as you know, I, in addition to appearing on this podcast with some regularity, I do the Scoring Notes podcast, which comes out every week, and I have a button on my Stream Deck that runs a Keyboard Maestro macro that launches all of the applications that I need running to do a podcast, and also turns off a couple of smart home devices that make noise. So I've got a fountain for my cat because that's the kind of cat person that I am, and she likes playing with the running water, and it makes her happy, and that makes me happy. So anyway, that makes noise though, and I have a relatively open plan apartment, and so I need to turn it off to make a recording. I have a loud fan next door as well, and so I press this one button, it turns all that stuff off, launches my apps, and we get going. So it's great, and I also have the Scoring Express templates from Notation Central, which have all kinds of useful little shortcuts that are built into the Stream Deck as well. So
that is itself a good. We're going to talk about like software later, but that's a good gift idea. Is there's like lots of little fun things on that website, like fonts. And like you just said, like I have the Dorico profile for my Stream Deck that like launches me into different menus that would otherwise be a bunch of clicks away.
Yeah, it's very cool. I have the one for Sibelius and the one for Dorico because I still need to bounce back and forth, and they're both great.
Nice. A handful of people in preparation for this asked about microphones. I just thought I would mention 2 that I use almost exclusively. The AT2020 is my favorite budget mic to recommend. It is more expensive than the Blue Snowball by a little bit, but it is also still affordable. And I think that the extra you pay for is definitely worth it. Like you're getting a lot for just paying a little bit extra. And you can certainly hear the difference. The thing I'm recording on now that's permanently fixed to my computer setup in my studio is the AKG P420.
Blaze it.
Yeah, it's really just, I feel like it is a similar kind of sound to the AT2020. It's just, a little bit better. It's more resonant, more frequency range. It's just a nicer mic.
Yeah, nice. I am talking into a Rode Procaster, which is very similar to the Rode Podcaster, but it has a regular XLR audio connection, not a USB connection, and that's going into my audio interface. And then I also have, when I am making videos and I don't want this giant microphone right in front of my face, I have a very cool Rode wireless, I don't know why I'm like a Rode shill all of a sudden, I have a Rode Wireless Go 2, or mine is a Rode Wireless Go 1, but you can get the Rode Wireless Go 2, which came out right after I bought mine, and it is a lavalier pack setup. So if you have ever been in a theater and used a wireless lavalier microphone, you have like a little mic pack that you clip to your belt or put in your pocket or whatever, and plug a lavalier microphone into that, and then that connects over a radio frequency to a thing that's connected to a mixing board somewhere. This is like that, but much simpler and much smaller. So it has its own self-contained rechargeable battery. You charge it over USB-C, just like your iPad or Android phone or whatever. And it has 2 little tiny packs. These things are much, much smaller than the pack that you might have used for a theater wireless microphone. One of them is the receiver. One of them is the transmitter. The transmitter has its own built-in microphone, which is actually pretty good, but it happens to be attached to the box. You can also plug in a separate lavalier microphone, and that's what I do. I have a Rode Lavalier Go that works with this wireless system, and so I have a microphone that I can clip to my shirt and then have this thing in my pocket or whatever, and it's very easy to plug this thing into my Mac or to plug this into my iPhone if I need to make a video of myself teaching or rehearsal or something like that for my portfolio. I can do that, have the really amazing video camera capabilities of my iPhone and this very good audio from this microphone that's, right in front of my face. It's really cool, very, very reasonably priced compared to one of these theater lavalier setups. I like it a lot.
Love it. I love it. All right, let me stay on this category of like audio, computer hardware stuff. So people always ask me, so I'm just going to say it right now. For budget audio interface stuff, I like the Focusrite Scarlett series. I have a Scarlett Solo in a few rooms at school with the AT2020 microphone plugged in. And then I have the 6i6 in my own home studio, and it, I can plug a MIDI device into it. I have a little drum sampler plugged into it. I have this microphone plugged into it. Very simple, reliable little device. I think I spent under $100 on it. And
I'll say for the price, those Focusrite interfaces have really great sounding microphone preamps. So if you are concerned about not getting enough juice from your microphone, the Focusrite is a pretty good place to start if you're not ready to purchase a dedicated mic preamp to go in between your microphone and your audio interface.
Yeah, totally. All right, so the 12 South Stay-Go USB hub, I just have so many of these things now. We got one for every room at my school because
nice.
I had one at home, and I was like, hey, everyone, this will just be like one thing that you plug into your computer. And now almost everywhere I ever use my computer, I have just one thing that I plug in. And into that little tiny hub is power, a connection to a projector, a connection to a Scarlett product of some kind with a microphone and an output to the stereo system in the room, maybe a MIDI keyboard for note input. I mean, this is like my typical setup. And at home, I have two of them going into two separate ports of my MacBook.
Wow.
And then one's got some of those things, and then another one's got a Stream Deck and an Ableton Push and a webcam going into it. So I'm all set up with these 12 South hubs. They're extremely affordable and allow you to plug about like 5 or 6 things into one of the ports of your laptop.
Nice. I will say, I want to throw in one thing that is a reasonably priced normal person thing, because we've been talking about kind of some fancy lad things like the AirPods Pro and even the regular AirPods. Amazon, love them or hate them or indifferent toward them. They have Amazon Basics things, and these are things that they either manufacture or buy from other people and slap their name on. There is, believe it or not, Amazon Basics headphones. You can get these Amazon Basics over-ear studio monitor headphones. I'm not saying these things are going to replace your Shure, your AKGs, or whatever it is you enjoy, but if you just need like a pretty good, and these are pretty good, over-ear headphone that you can, have that people are going to like share in a classroom kind of space, or that you just need like isolated headphones on your ears and you don't like sticking things in your ears. These are like $50-$60, and they have a detachable cable, which is a thing that a lot of nicer studio headphones feature, so that if something happens to the cable, you don't have to replace the whole thing. You can just replace the cable. They're very, very cool. They don't have like a big obnoxious Amazon branding anything anywhere. I got them kind of on a lark a couple of months ago, and they've actually turned out to serve me pretty well.
The Amazon Basics stuff always impresses me.
I'm always very impressed.
All right, let's move on to a different category, one that I'm very excited about, because again, I said this earlier, it's easy to take for granted all the stuff on my desk. I have done a lot of that research. I don't always buy new things, but I am always on the hunt for new apps that are going to make my life just a little nicer. And so I thought what we would do is talk about some of the apps. Some of them are like buy it once, pay for it once, and others are subscription. So before we go down that path, I think, I noticed this about maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I bought the Nintendo Switch. And one of the things that my mother's side of the family likes to do is we all just put stuff on our Amazon wish lists and then just buy each other all the stuff on our Amazon wish list.
Mm-hmm. It makes so many things so much easier. That's what my family does as well.
Now, I noticed that when I got my Switch, I made a decision. I thought to myself, all of my cloud-based productivity workflows are built around the idea that everything is with me everywhere.
Can I just say that that is the most Robby Burns opening sentence I've ever heard, is you started talking about your Nintendo Switch and pivot to cloud-based productivity workflows. So that really, I think, encapsulates the Robby Burns Music Ed Tech Talk experience right there.
I'm glad to hear that it's there, that little nugget there. There couldn't be anything truer, because listen, I work hard, I play hard, and in the same way that I'm not trying to have my emails be different on every computer, I'm trying to have all my video games in my pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't want to have cartridges that I change out. I own one Nintendo Switch cartridge, and it was like the day I bought it, I was like, well, I have to have a game. And it was one of those things where like I was tracking the shipments on one of those websites, and then I saw that the Target near my house was getting two, so I like raced right over there and stood at the door. There was another person waiting outside the door, and I was like, I hope they don't want the Switch. And then I ran to the thing. Anyway, I bought Zelda that day, and it has been inside of the Switch since the day I bought the Switch, and everything else digital. So I ask on my Amazon wishlist every year for digital Switch games, and all of a sudden when I started doing that, nobody in the family would buy me any media anymore. Like when I started like requesting that it's all digital, they just stopped. Like I guess they didn't think it was joyous enough that I didn't have to like open wrapping paper in the process. So I just stopped getting games. And it was a little sad.
Tragic.
So I'm going to preface this by asking, it is tragic. I mean, for me, if someone gave me any kind of entryway into a piece of software, I would be happy. And I guess that this brings up the question of gift cards. But I thought I would ask you, like, do you people buy you like software? Is that a thing?
Do people buy me software? No. Do I buy other people's software? Absolutely. Mostly, here's the thing. First, I buy people software that they would not buy for themselves. So
that's
I think this is the thing.
Sometimes of a good gift.
Right. And I think we all know people like this. We've probably talked about this on the show before, is that there are a lot of people who just don't buy software. Like the App Store and the web have trained us that apps and software should be free and then people should pay for things. But we know that this is stuff that's made by people, and it's one of the reasons why I think you and I like supporting independent developers who are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 person shops. And those are the people that we want to continue building their software and making it better year after year and supporting the new operating systems year after year and the new features of those operating systems year after year. And so I think this is a great opportunity for me, and I don't do this necessarily as a holiday gift, just like hey, whatever, it's Wednesday kind of gift, that I buy people software in part to show them how much better it can be than the free crap they're using. And so things like some things we've talked about a lot on this show, like the Rogue Amoeba apps for audio stuff. If somebody is using Audacity for everything, as great as Audacity is, and it got a whole lot better just shortly before we recorded this, it got a noticeable update, but buying somebody something like a copy of Rogue Amoeba's Fission or Audio Hijack or something like that, that's the sort of thing that they would never experience if they know, oh, this is the thing that costs $10, so forget about it, right? Or $30 or $40, forget about it. So I think those are the sorts of things that I like to buy for people.
Totally. And one of the ways to do that is to just give them gift cards, which this is my new defense against people not wanting to get me digital media, is I just put gift cards on the Amazon wish list. I'm just like, give me all the gift cards. Particularly, though, I want those ones with Mario's big face on them, because that means games. I'm a giant child.
I mean, maybe that's why
Nintendo.
People stop buying you Nintendo games, Robby, is because you turned 30.
Could be. Well, let's talk about our favorite software that you could gift to someone. And I don't know. They've all been addressed at such length on this show that I don't feel like we need to go too deep.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll kick it off with drafts, which is I actually once bought drafts for all the administrators at my school because I had some separate conversations with them all about being productive earlier in the week, and it had come up in conversation. It was like, at the time, I think it was like a couple bucks. In fact, you can, at the time, I don't know if you can still do this, but at the time you could like actually from the app store, you could like gift a specific app to another user like through email.
You can still do that.
So that's cool. So that's another way to do it. And yeah, I gifted them all drafts. I don't know how many, I told them, I'm like, hey, this is the place that text starts, and like put it on your dock underneath where your thumb comfortably rests and just start everything there. I don't know if it's stuck for any of them, but it is exactly what I just said. It's a place where text can start. You can really, really quickly type ideas in without the fuss of like organizing, notebooks and journals of different text snippets. But then on the back end of the experience, you have a directory of actions that you can install into the app, some of which come pre-installed, that will send your different little text notes or drafts to other applications or even perform actions on them. So most of my actions send the text to other apps, like, hey, this is maybe the basis of a message, send that to my wife. Maybe this is the draft of an email, or maybe this is a to-do or a note, and I can send them off to the various places they go. But I don't have to think too hard about getting the note into the system, because when I open drafts, it's just a blank white screen with a keyboard.
Yeah, and kind of on the continuum with drafts, I think is an app that we've talked about before, and I know you and I have both used a lot before very recently, is Craft. And Craft is a free app with a paid pro subscription, and the pro subscription has some of the features that make it worth using for me, including the ability to publish your notes on the web as very slick-looking little web pages. And it's not super expensive. I don't remember how much it costs, but gifting a Craft Pro subscription would be pretty rad.
For sure. Yeah. And I've said it already, and I'll say it again. A Craft episode of this show is coming up soon. So stay tuned. Very, very soon. All right. Well, I think in the same line of thinking as drafts, everyone deserves to have a good place to store all their tasks. And there are two very, very popular task apps on my platform of choice, which is iOS and, of course, also the Mac. OmniFocus by the Omni Group and Things by Cultured Code are just really two great applications for task management that go beyond the basic, reminder experience that you get stock on your phone. They both have very different strengths. Things is very elegant and focused, I think, on simplicity and ease of use, whereas OmniFocus is a little bit more focused on power and features and having creating kind of like, for lack of a better way of describing this, kind of like smart groups of tasks, basically like designing filters of how you view certain tasks in context of one another. I really like OmniFocus. That's what I use. I've got some cool project templates that help me to remember what to do to prepare things like concerts and ordering sheet music and all my various.
Yeah, they're both great. And if you know somebody that is, just like falling apart, keeping track of all of the things that they need to do, and who among us does not know that person or, frankly, are that person, yep. These are some really useful ways to help that person out. Now, having said that, it's not going to organize your stuff for you. You have to use the app to make it work. But it's a really nice way of starting, and also they have kind of structures built into them that might kind of help you figure out the best ways to organize your work and your projects for yourself. So yeah, both of those, I have used both of them, especially OmniFocus somewhat recently, but they're both great and would definitely recommend either.
Right on. Do you want to take the next one?
Sure. I think these next two are kind of along the lines of our recommendation of getting somebody an iPad Pro or a MacBook Pro for the holidays. These are costly pieces of software, but they are incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, and especially could be the sorts of things that people might not necessarily be willing to purchase for themselves, and those are music notation applications. The one that I think is probably one of the newer ones for us to be playing around with is StaffPad, which is for Windows or iPad. It's not on the Mac, and it is a basically handwriting-based music notation application. It uses all handwriting recognition, and the handwriting recognition is not perfect, but I would say it's the best of all of the options that are available on the iPad. And the cool thing about StaffPad is everything around its playback features. You have to buy playback sound libraries separately. It does come with a very reasonable sound set, but it has some really incredible sounds that you can purchase separately as in-app purchases, and they sound really, really good. There's an amazing demo video of David William Hearn, who's one of the founders of the company StaffPad, demonstrating how he uses this to create a composition / arrangement of this kind of like John Barry, James Bond style big band with orchestra kind of score, and it sounds just incredible. I don't know if you've seen this demo, but it's a long video. It's like 3-4 hours long because he starts from zero and works it out just sitting there with his iPad Pro and his Apple Pencil. And it's really impressive. And then the other one that I know you and I both use quite a lot, and we've spoken about a lot in the past, is Dorico. Dorico comes in a lot of different flavors, so you'll have to figure out, which one is the best one for a gift and for the person you're buying for. But it is a really cool, exciting new thing. And especially if you know somebody who is starting to get a little frustrated with their Finale or Sibelius use, this might be kind of the nudge that they need. I'm sure we both know a lot of people who have been saying for months or years, yeah, I'm really fed up with Sibelius or Finale, and I'm ready to try Dorico, and they just need, an extra little, push over the edge. And maybe this is that for them, buying them a copy of Dorico Elements or something for Christmas.
All right. You mentioned these earlier. I'll give him some love here. The Rogue Amoeba audio apps. Actually, this one is green. Does that mean that you want this one? Do you care?
Oh, go for it. No. Go for it.
I'll just say almost every Rogue Amoeba app has been a regular part of my teaching since I bought their Podcaster pack last year. I will be as brief as possible, but I will say that Loopback helps me to have great control over the audio, how apps come into the audio input of everything from Zoom calls to Google Meet classes to even if I'm just recording in Logic and I want to grab some of the audio from my apps. Loopback helps me manage all those ins and outs. Fission is a lightweight audio editor, not unlike Audacity. SoundSource allows me to easily manipulate the inputs and outputs of my computer system, but also the individual app volume of every single app that's running on my computer. I can even run my audio units through the output of my apps right from within this. It's like a little menu bar application that just like a window pops on the screen, and I can run RX7 through the output of a Zoom call if I want, and have it clean up your voice before it gets to my ears or something crazy like that. What else is there? There's, of course, Audio Hijack, which I'm using to record my end of this very call right now. And then Fission, which is an app I've used to organize all of my scale exercise play-along tracks that I use in rehearsal every day. It's like a soundboard app.
No, your Fission is the audio editor. You're thinking of...
What am I thinking? Variego. Yes, sorry, I already said Fission. Wait, did I say Fission?
I talked about Fission a little bit, but I don't think you did.
Yeah. Fission is the one.
Fission is like Audacity, but nice.
That's a good way of describing it. Yeah, and then Variego. So it's a soundboard application, and if you do theater, musical theater, or even if you the other band director at my school is doing this piece for concert band right now, where you have some basic audio samples that get triggered and played through a stereo system, right at the big moment of this one piece she's doing. There's this little sample that goes boo. It's like an 808 thing, but a bendy one, and then there's a that lands with everyone on the downbeat. And she's like, how am I going to trigger this? iTunes? And I'm like, no, you need Variego. And then you can just press the number 1 on your computer keyboard right at the moment you want the boo to start.
Or they could get you and a microphone, and you could just make those noises with your mouth. Did you think of that?
I'm doing a piece. Yeah, I didn't. I'm doing a piece with so when I say concert band, of course, I mean that generically to mean, the instrumentation that all 4 of our groups contain. I teach the actual one that's called the concert band, and
right.
We're doing a piece called Donut Factory, and there's a slide whistle in it, and I have not yet purchased a slide whistle. Yes. So now I'm nervous because every time we get to that moment in the music, I go beep, and now that the students are doing it.
Oh no. Now you're going to
that's
need
gonna
to
be a
just
hard-
make it with your mouth. I don't think you can get a slide whistle now.
Well, I'm just nervous they're going to do that at the concert.
Why not? Why would that be a problem?
I don't know. I guess at the end of the
Think
day, we're all
about
just
it.
in a donut factory.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll make one last plug here in the software category, unless there's something else you want to definitely hit in here. And that is just, we were talking about this earlier, is our friends and relatives who don't buy their software that they use. And it's totally fine. A lot of it is set up to be free or paid. And one thing that I like to do is watch for my friends and loved ones who are using the free version of an app that I happen to know has a paid version, and buy them that paid version just as a gift. Right? So let's say, for example, you have, and this is true of a lot of games, right? Especially games that came out before the in-app purchase system was built into the App Store. There would be a free version that was like the demo thing that would have a bunch of gross ads or whatever. And then there would be the paid version that doesn't have the ads and maybe has a couple of extra features. So if you have a friend that is, for example, playing Threes free, you could buy that friend Threes paid, and it's only like, $4 or $5, and then they don't have to look at those gross tracking ads anymore, and they won't be tracked by their gross ads.
Threes is a good game.
It's a great game.
I've been playing Flappy Bird lately. No. I'm wrong. I got this wrong on the Discord earlier. Too.
You've been playing Tiny Wings, yeah.
Yeah, Tiny Wings is a delight, and that has been recently released on Apple Arcade, which is a part of their. Do you do the Apple One subscription?
I do.
I don't know if you can gift someone Apple One.
I don't know. I kind of doubt it because of the way that you buy it being like built into the operating system. But it is really good. I am a fan. I use a lot of parts of it, and I have it in the like Premiere version because I share it with my family, with my parents, and nice. So I pay for it for them so that they have the big iCloud storage, and they get a lot out of Apple News Plus, which I didn't think I was going to like until I got it through this bundle, and I read like The Atlantic and The New Yorker and stuff on my sweet new iPad mini, and it's a very nice reading experience for those things on my little handheld device. I've used Apple Fitness Plus. I know you're a big Peloton boy, but Apple Fitness Plus is really cool. I like the classes. I like how it integrates with all the other Apple Fitness things. And what else is in there? Apple Music is obviously in there. Obviously, Apple TV Plus, which is really nice. I'm a big fan of a bunch of Apple TV Plus series, and I think yeah, I like them better than most of the other video services that I subscribe to. Like on average, there is more good stuff in Apple TV Plus than most of the other video services that I subscribe to. There's just not as much stuff, but I think the average quality is much, much higher.
I was the biggest possible skeptic of Apple TV Plus, and it's turned out to not only be probably one of the better services they've created, but also, yeah, I agree with you about the show quality. For me, HBO is still, by a long shot, they've just got the best shows. But Apple TV is like a real regular for me. I mean, we already are giant children in our house, so Disney Plus is big with us. But now that we have a kid and he wants to watch Mickey's Clubhouse and like the movie Cars, the whole like watching the movie Cars every day thing, I didn't realize it started at 1. It starts real early. He's been in a year-long car phase, and he knows what cars are, he knows what trucks are. He can't say Lightning McQueen yet, but he can say movie Cars.
That's pretty good.
That's how we know.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's how we know he wants the movie Cars.
Pretty good.
So we've already kicked into our services category. Yeah. We might as well just keep this thing rolling. So
Let's roll.
Anyone. Obviously, we're talking about some entertainment services. Apple Apple. We talked about their thing. We talked about Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Disney Plus. Let me just say there's a couple of things that I think are like mental and physical health related, and I think that's super important for teachers. And some of these services offer heavy discounts or are just entirely free for educators. So I'll just say 2 that are popular: Calm and Headspace. I am personally a very, very big Headspace fan.
Me too.
I like it 1,000 times more than Calm. I think it actually teaches the ideas that help you to like become someone who understands how to meditate. Like I find that I can like do it on my own because of how many of those I've listened to, and both apps are entirely free for educators.
Are they? I thought at least for me, I have to pay like $5 a year for Headspace or something. It's very, very cheap.
That's still really cheap. I'm pretty sure I pay nothing for Headspace.
Okay. Either way, I'm happy to. And I didn't know that for a long time, and I was paying full freight for Headspace for a long time, and was absolutely happy to until I discovered this. But it's a very, very wonderful service, and like Robby says, the thing that I like about it is that it teaches you the like fundamental principles of mindfulness meditation, and then you can do, I love the idea of courses. So there's like an onboarding course that teaches you the basics. And then if you are working with anxiety or whatever, you can do the anxiety course. And that's, if you are, focusing on relationship issues, you can do the relationship course. If you're focusing on creativity issues, you can do the creativity course. And they're really, really cool. Totally worth it.
The anxiety one in particular is good. And I like that they all, every meditation session has similar building blocks. Like you're going to have some moments of like your eyes are awake and you're thinking about breathing, and then you're closing your eyes. But like in the middle of each course, like there are some of the different courses have like actual techniques associated with them. Like the anxiety one really starts with like this idea of noting, like just taking thoughts and feelings that come into your awareness and just sort of like acknowledging them, but like just non-judgmentally letting them also like float off you. There's one on physical pain that actually has you like visualize pain in your body in a way that's a really interesting technique. Like imagine its color and shape, and then sort of like focus on it and then like focus away from it. Super interesting. Yeah, I just totally recommend it as a service.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very good. And I've gotten a lot out of it in the years that I've been a Headspace member. And I don't use it every day. There was a time when I used it every day and I really relied on it. And and sometimes I'm not, and I can tell when I'm not, but it's nice to always have it there for sure.
Yeah. And now speaking of things that are about health, Peloton Digital is, I know everyone thinks of Peloton as like making overpriced bicycles, but their digital streaming service is actually the thing that got my wife and I into their whole ecosystem. They have also a pretty good teacher discount. I think it's a $10 to $12 a month service. I think it's like something like $6 or $7 a month for teachers.
Wow, that is a good
deal.
That's another one I didn't know about, and I
good.
paid for this for a long time without the teacher discount as well. I'm such a chump.
Yeah, I always try to check for those teacher discounts. But and not just for services, for a lot of the apps that we mentioned today as well. You can get those educator discounts. So Peloton Digital, I don't know what is there to say about it. What makes Peloton, I think, the appealing company that it is that they're doing this whole like software services hardware combo where they own that whole widget and then make them seamlessly operate together, which is great. But even if you just think about the fact that like what makes that compelling in the first place, like what makes a home gym compelling, at some point the actual like motivation of the person has to be different than going to a gym in order for it to really catch. And that's where like the personality and the structure of the many courses come into play, and that's exactly what you get. Like you don't have a bike. You could just have your own exercise bike and just pop on an iPad onto a stand. And in fact, I've learned from the community that this is called the do-it-yourself Peloton model, and lots of people do it because Peloton the service is more expensive if you own a hardware product, which is silly, but I get it, because you get multiple user accounts for your family. So yeah, I mean Peloton Digital. Really, really good. Like the yoga, you could just do yoga and like body strength alone and never run out of great content.
It's like
everyone's got awesome personality.
Yeah, it's like Jane Fonda tapes but live and good. They're like good modern, and they use modern gear and modern techniques and what we have learned since Jane Fonda about aerobics and strength training and all those kinds of things. They're very, very good, and I have, the only reason I dropped it is because I have been using the Apple Fitness Plus workout videos.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. So I'll add one more, and that is Nebula. And if you watch a lot of YouTube, especially if you watch a lot of educational YouTube, nonfiction YouTube, you may have seen promos and ad spots for Nebula. It's a streaming service that is made up mostly of YouTube creators who do educational content on YouTube, and it is a very reasonably priced thing. They have a bunch of different intro deals, some of which are just ridiculous, like $12 or $15 for the first year or something like that. Not a month, for the first year. And they've got, like if you watch 12-tone videos on music, if you watch Adam Neely, if you enjoy like a Wendover Productions kind of, short documentary style filmmaking, they have a lot of those without ads and sometimes with extended features that don't make it onto YouTube. It's a really nice service that has a bunch of cool people, and you don't have to kind of wade through the massive quantity of stuff on YouTube to find good stuff, because it's all good stuff that's over there. So that's Nebula. They have an app. The app is fine, but the thing you're there for is the service.
If we do an entertainment and miscellaneous category,
yeah,
can we try to do it where we try to say only one sentence about each thing?
Yes, let's do it. I'm in.
Challenge.
I'm in.
Okay. All right. Here we go. This is it. We've done all the stuff that you might use as a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
And some stuff there are things that we didn't immediately make sense which category they go into, or that I was too lazy to put into a category for some of these. All right. First up is the Anchor. They make the really good like portable batteries you can plug your phone into. They make a projector called the Nebula. There's a couple of different products on the line. Occasionally it's on sale on Amazon Prime Day. It is like a $100 to $200 projector that you stick on a tripod, and it runs Android and can stream Disney Plus, Hulu, YouTube, whatever, for up to 4 hours, and like Bluetooth out to a speaker. I use it to project movies onto the side of my house, which is fun.
Sounds great. The thing that I will recommend is something that would be useful to any of you or your friends who have screened devices, or glasses for that matter, and that is a product called Whoosh. Whoosh is a thing that you can buy on Amazon. It is a special spray that is for cleaning screens in ways that won't hurt the screens and won't hurt the kind of oleophobic coating that repels oils. It comes with a spray and a cloth. You can get a big one. You can get a small one to go in your bag. It's a great like stocking stuffer thing. I use it all the time. If you are the kind of person like me who is often sharing a screen with another human next to you and are embarrassed at the filthiness of your screen, Whoosh is a great thing to have.
It's a good one. I'm glad you put that on the list. All right, Nintendo. Here's another service for you. Just a fun one. Their new version of their Nintendo Online subscription service not only now gives you some Nintendo and Super Nintendo Entertainment System games on demand, but also some Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games on demand, plus access to all future downloadable content for Animal Crossing.
That sounds great. I'm going to recommend a pair of shoes. If you listen to podcasts, you may have heard ads for this brand of shoes. It is Atoms, ATOMS shoes. This is another thing, by the way, that has teacher discounts of just a modest 10 to 15% discount. They don't have a lot of styles. They look kind of a little bit like classic Chuck Taylor-ish sneakers. They're low-top sneakers. So I guess not that Chuck Taylor-ish. Anyway, but they are really nice. They're very breathable. They are things you can buy on the internet, and they come in quarter sizes if you're very picky about your sizes. Big fan. I got some recently, and I like them a lot.
Nice. Well, you're going to need some socks to put in those shoes.
Oh, see what you did there.
Yeah. Bombas. They make the best socks. I have nothing else to say.
That sounds pretty good. I've never had Bombas socks, but I guess I'm going to have to get some now. I
got a pair that match. I'm sorry. I have to do one more sentence on Bombas. I have a set of Sesame Street themed Bombas socks.
Nice.
That are like not actually the characters. They're more like abstract suggestions of the characters.
I've seen stuff like
Cookie
this.
Monster socks right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like a light blue, and then it all of a sudden becomes a dark blue, and then right where the seam is of the light blue and the dark blue is like a chocolate chip cookie.
That's good. I like that. I've seen things like that for like Star Wars characters and things like that. I'm a big fan of that like abstract representation of the character on the sock. That's good.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There are also two googly eyes above the cookie. So,
I mean, if it didn't have googly eyes, would it really be Cookie Monster?
No, it would not.
So I am going to, at this point, combine 3 different picks because they're all very closely related. And I think this is a great thing. It's a little bit related to the services thing that we talked about earlier, but these are different places you can go to get educational video content, like video courses online for things that are related to technology or not. And there are two that are specifically related to technology, and those are the Mac Sparky Field Guides, produced by David Sparks, and Mac Pro Video, also known as Ask Video. And there are great courses here that you can buy individually, like David Sparks' paperless field guide is great to talk about how you can turn your paper workflows into digital workflows and that whole process and managing it. Really, really useful stuff. Mac Pro Video tends to be about creative software. So if you want to get better at Logic Pro, there was just a really great video added here by Leo Nicholson. If you're just getting into Dorico, kind of going through a Dorico training course, that's there. You can also subscribe to Mac Pro Video and get all of their courses. And the other service that I'll recommend related to those is Skillshare, which is also a subscription, has tons of great stuff, not just software stuff, but if you want to learn how to draw, if you want to learn how to build like actual physical things that you can touch, if you want to learn about coding, everything. It's really cool stuff. Check it out. Skillshare. I'm out.
All right, I'll do just a quick lightning round of my last couple ones here. I got a couple of affordable fountain pens over the past year, my favorite of which is like about $16 to $20. It's made by, I think it's pronounced Lamy is the company.
You get
and
the
I believe
Safari?
The model is the Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah, the green. I got the forest green Safari, and I like it a lot. It is, for the most part, fuss-free. It has a nice feel, and I recommend it if you would like to write things in a nicer way. Totally a great starter fountain pen. I feel the love. Speaking of mental health earlier, you deserve to take a nice hot bath, and if you have access to a place where you can take a nice hot bath and you're feeling real fancy, you're at the mall, maybe you're buying some of the things on this very list, stop in your local Lush store because they've got the best bath salts and they've got the best soaps and they've got the best mouthwash. It's just like a luxury like soap store. I don't know how else to describe this place. Are you familiar with Lush?
I am not familiar with Lush.
I said this was going to be fast. Here I am talking about Lush. Just like impulse buy some soap next time you're at the mall or something from a Lush. It's delightful. I really like to, speaking of books, but just things that didn't fall into the music, technology, education category, two recent favorites I have received as gifts are The 4-Hour Chef by Timothy Ferriss, which contains my favorite steak recipe I have ever made, and the Mamafuku cookbook by David Chang, which contains all sorts of history and beautiful photography of his journey and the history of the restaurant, but also just tons of recipes for things that they make in-house. And if you're a nerd about David Chang and everything he does, then this is a great thing to own. And also you can learn to be better in the kitchen with it.
I feel like if you know who David Chang is, you are by definition a nerd about David Chang. Like there's no in between.
Yeah. That's true. Very true. Very true. All right. I think that's the end of the gifts.
All right. Do you have an album and a tech tip? I don't know if we need to do an app pick because we've been recommending things all day.
Literally all of the apps are my favorite apps of the week and life. You got OmniFocus, you got Things, you got Drafts from me today. You got all of my favorites.
You're done.
Yeah, let's do album. I'm actually gonna in effort to model this segment, because I always say this segment doesn't have to be an album.
Mm-hmm.
But often I feel like my guests are pressured into doing an album. So I'm going to model for the show, for the listeners, for any future guests, for everyone. I'm going to model that this segment does not specifically need to be an album and talk about a concert.
You're such a good teacher, Robby. Modeling what you want to see in your students.
That's right. We went to, live music is around me. So this is not the first time I've been to an event where there was live music, but it's certainly the first time that I bought tickets and got a babysitter and ordered drinks and made plans.
Fancy.
This is by most accounts the first live show we've seen since COVID. So we saw Sarah Jarosz, and Sarah Jarosz is honestly she's one of my favorite artists. We saw her at my favorite venue to see her, and she's kind of like a folk bluegrass singer and songwriter, and we saw her at the Ram's Head Tavern, which is, everybody's town has a place like this, just a really intimate, nice venue where you can get dinner and drinks, where the acoustics rock, and you can listen to folk music in an environment where people like listen intently and don't talk or heckle or like, you know, have loud side conversation. Like it was just a perfect place to appreciate all of her, like, because she's just like got such a great singing voice and writes songs where, like, you know, the musicians in the band are not going to be playing anything technically too out there, but you know that like they're just going to have the tone of each instrument dialed right in. Like I could just listen to this guitarist play all day. He just had that like Nashville sound where like it's distorted and it just like when you hear it play, you just feel like you just feel like that sound could like stretch over the Grand Canyon and pass over to the other side and then like go further. Like it's just this expansive sound that fills the air around you. And so it was a great concert. Obviously, like she was so thrilled to be performing. It was like really cute. Like she just seemed really like grateful to be performing, and it was like giddy. It looked, she had the feeling of like that you would expect from someone who was like on their first major tour. You could just sense that joy and excitement from her to perform again. So it was cool.
That's awesome. I will recommend a much, much older musical experience, and that is the music of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who is kind of an early blues queen from the album I'm going to recommend is from the 1950s. It's called Gospel Train. She comes from, as you might imagine, the gospel tradition, as well as the blues tradition, and she is a guitarist and singer, and this record just is absolutely rocks from top to bottom. And if you are interested in kind of mid-1900s blues, or if you are interested in gospel and blues guitar, you definitely need to check this out. She is an absolute badass in every way. And Sister Rosetta Tharpe, listen to any Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Find YouTube videos of her. They are amazing. But this album, Gospel Train, is a great place to start if you don't know any of it. Check it out.
Right on.
It's from like the 1950s, I think.
Awesome. All right, yeah, I'm going to... Oh, the link is already in there.
I got your back.
Gosh, I'm going to do a keyboard maestro tip next episode for my tech tip, but I'm wondering if I should just do a different one this episode.
I don't know. Do you want to get a focus mode tip?
Oh, I would love to give a focus mode tip. Yeah. Wait, are you going to give a focus mode tip? No, you're going to do Unicode.
Mine's
characters.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about focus modes. So it's been coming up on this show a lot lately. I've talked at length about how you can customize who and which apps can notify you. But one of the things you can do is when you launch into a focus mode is you can have the home screen of your iPhone or iPad change. So for example, I can have a home screen that's got like a giant clock widget, the Fourscore app, the Tonal Energy Tuner app, the GarageBand app. I can have an iPhone home screen that when I launch into my rehearsal focus mode, not only now can only my wife and the members of my music team send push notifications to my devices, but all of my devices show me just the apps that I need to teach my class. And which is cool because then I can actually have my default home screen not have those apps on them if I only use them in the classroom. For example, like Fourscore on my iPhone is something that I only ever really use in private lessons. So it's like tucked away in a folder somewhere, but when I'm in private lesson focus mode, my iPhone shows me the Fourscore app, the Tonal Energy Tuner app, and like some programmable Siri shortcuts that lock and unlock the door to my studio for my students. So
nice.
Kind of fun.
Nice. I use it on my iPad mini that I mentioned earlier. I have a reading mode set up for focus mode, and it automatically turns off my notifications and gives me a home screen that only has reading apps. So it has my RSS reader, it has the Kindle app, it has the Apple Books app, it has Devon Think, it has all of the apps that I have things in that I might want to read from, and none of the apps that would distract me. So it doesn't have TikTok, it doesn't have Twitter, whatever. It only has reading apps, and it turns off notifications so that I don't get text messages or whatever while I'm in that mode on that iPad. So it's really cool. I like it a lot. My tech tip is special Unicode characters. So Unicode is basically it's how fonts work. It's what defines what a letter A is, so that Calibri can make a letter A look one way and Helvetica can make a letter A look another way, and whatever font you're using, they all kind of understand what lowercase a looks like, and so on and so forth. There are a whole range of characters that are beyond the basic alphabet and number and punctuation characters that you're used to. Some of them you may be familiar with as emoji, but there are a lot of others that are also still not emoji, and I find them to be incredibly useful for all sorts of things. A lot of them I use are arrows, so you need to show this thing becomes this thing left to right, or cycles, you might need a circular arrow or anything like that, or simple shapes you might find useful. So for example, I've been preparing materials for my students recently about intervals and inversions, and I might have an arrow that says this interval under inversion becomes this interval, and so I have an arrow that goes left to right. Or I have been talking about chord symbols, and I might want to show them the variation of the major seventh chord symbol that uses this little triangle, that Greek delta symbol for a major seventh chord. And so I can type that using these extended Unicode characters. I wrote a choir piece last year where I wanted the singers to morph between two different vowels to gradually change the vowel sounds back and forth between two different vowel sounds. So I used an arrow that had, left and right arrowheads. And all of those are characters that exist. You don't need to draw the arrow. You don't need to draw the delta. You can grab them anywhere, and they can be copy and pasted just like any other symbol on your computer. And so there's a great website that I use called CopyChar, or CopyCare, I guess, copychar.cc, and it's a very well-organized set of symbols that you can use. Another thing I use here, there's little squares that I use as checkboxes to help guide my music theory students to follow the instructions that I write for them on worksheets. I list each instruction with a checkbox at the beginning and ask them to literally check off each instruction as they have completed that instruction, and that has actually helped a lot. And so little things like that, you click the button and it copies the whatever symbol to your clipboard, and you can paste it into Sibelius, you can paste it into an email, you can paste it into your learning management system, you can paste it into Word, whatever. And it's a really, really great, really useful, really friendly website, very easy to use. It's searchable, and it's I think the best way that I have of getting at all of these characters that are really built into a lot of fonts, not every font, but a lot of fonts that you can use on your computer in a lot of different contexts.
This is a cool site.
It's very fun.
Very nice. Awesome. Well, to think that I thought this was going to be a short episode.
Did you really? You really thought you and me were going to be talking about stuff you can buy, and it was going to be a short episode?
I don't know why I thought that. It doesn't make any sense now that.
What in your experience of our conversations made you think this was going to be a short episode?
Oh, I don't know. No, you're right. You're right. Oh boy. All right. Well, hopefully we provided some ideas for people. I think for the most part we just talked about things we like, which is also valid because, you won't necessarily need to buy all of these things on this list at once or even as a gift, but hopefully this was just a nice way to touch base on the stuff that keeps us going.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All of them, it was fun, and all of them will be linked with when relevant, Amazon links or whatever kinds of links will take you to the products information pages themselves. Of course, any other things we mentioned you can find in the show notes in the podcast app of your choice. I don't know. I'm kind of saying closing words. I might as well read the thing. Can I read the thing?
Read it. Do it.
I'm going to read the thing. All right, I'm Robby Burns. Thanks for listening to Music Ed Tech Talk. You can find the show's page, show notes for this episode, and my blog at musicedtechtalk.com. You can subscribe to blog posts through an RSS app of your choice, and you can subscribe to the podcast in a podcast app of your choice. You can now get blog posts delivered right into your email inbox once a week. Please rate and review the show in the podcast app you use. It absolutely helps. It'll only take a second and a few taps. Word of mouth is helpful too, so please spread the word about the show. You can learn more about my teaching and music career at robbyburns.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at Robby Burns. Please consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/musicedtechtalk. All support tiers get perks, but even the base tier gets you a monthly video update with app and music recommendations and tech tips, and access to the Music Ed Tech Talk Discord community where you can chat with other supporters and guests of the show about music. apps, pedagogy, lesson ideas, tech support, and more. It's a fun place to be. David is there.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
So come join us there. Hope to connect with you there soon. David, where can people find you and your work?
You can find my website at davidmacdonaldmusic.com, and from there you can link to most of the other things I do. Some of the other big things I do are at scoringnotes.com and the Scoring Notes podcast. You can find me on Twitter and wherever other finer nonsense is sold.
All right, and we'll see you next time.